So please take time to drink your tea and eat your bread. So giving two different kinds of tasks to your brain while tasting your tea and bread. Also use your ear, lend me your ears to listen to the teachings. So I'd like to see this first. So Lamrim Chemo and Lamrim, the middle length, and which I have. So except for 100 something pages, I have no more pages left. And then if I also teach, read Jangchup which is outline of the Lamrim, it seems we may finish the teaching on the 9th. If not, by 11th, on the 11th, we will finish the teaching. And then so if we finish these texts, then we may start with the superfine gold, the third Dalai Lama's Lamrim, and the Lamrim, the easy path or the path of bliss. So I might be able to finish on the 9th and on the 10th. So the 10th, on the 10th, it's a special celebration for the Universal Declaration Day, on which His Holiness Dalai Lama received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1989. So we have a function. And then I have been invited to come to the Sakya institution here, which I know from a long time. And then also I'll visit Drepung Monastery, which is a historical monastery of Tibet, on the 10th. So, and then we have time on the 10th and 11th and 12th. And then on the 13th, we could have the long life prayer. So we'll do the long life puja at the Drepung Tsokchen, the common prayer hall of Drepung Gomang and Drepung Losaling, where the Ganden Potang also is. And so I have devolved the political responsibility, and I'm now only a spiritual leader for the Tibetan people. And therefore, the first, second, third, and fourth Dalai Lamas, and then the fifth Dalai Lama, in the earlier part of his life, was a Drepung Lama of the Drepung Monastery. So from the second Dalai Lama to the fifth Dalai Lama, in whose life, in the earlier part of his life, all the Dalai Lamas lived in Drepung as Drepung Lamas. So having devolved the political responsibility, which I had actually desired since my childhood, and now last year I actually passed on this the dual responsibility which the Ganden Potang took since the fifth Dalai Lama's time. I actually devolved the political responsibility, legitimate power to the elected leader. And so from the first Dalai Lama who founded the Tashilimba Monastery to the fifth Dalai Lama until in the earlier part of his life, and I'm like them, I am now only a spiritual leader. So the Ganden Podang has now, which is in Drepung Monastery, and being a Drepung Lama of the Drepung Monastery. Then I had a short ceremony earlier when I arrived here, and then the conch shell which was unearthed by Master Tsongkhapa, I have invited it to Ganden, and now here during these Lamrim teachings. And so we'll have the Tenshuk, the long life puja, in Drepung Tsokchen, the common prayer hall of Drepung Gomang and Loseling. So then on the 15th and 16th, I'm meeting Thai scholars and monks in Delhi for some teachings and also discussions. And so initially I was supposed to leave here morning of the 14th, and but then I thought I might feel rather tired, so in the morning on the 13th we'll have the long life puja, and then I'll leave and stay in Goa for a night, and then the next morning I will leave for Delhi and will arrive there around 11 a.m. So this is my plan. So having received the teachings of Lamrim, the Great Treatise and the Middle Length Lamrim, if you are in a hurry to leave, so you may leave around the 9th or 10th. And then all of us, as we pray, may I meet with the perfect Guru. So just as we make this prayer, in all my rebirths, may I meet with the perfect Guru and never be separated and enjoy the magnificent Dharma and so forth. When I could attain the state of Vajradhara. So we are making such prayers, but if we think very carefully or closely, because of being cared for and guided by our kind masters. For example, my own kind masters have done that to me. And from my side, I have studied the classic texts written by Master Nagarjuna and his disciples and so forth, and also studied the teaching, the writings of the masters of all the different Tibetan Buddhist traditions, the great illuminators of these, the writings of these great illuminators of the Dharma, and also reading the teachings, writings of Master Tsongkhapa, and not only reading them, but even receiving all the transmissions of whichever texts have them. I've received all of them, and then I also revived the lineage of the 6 texts of the Kadampa, which has rather declined in the past. And so my own Dharma friends who have understood the complete Dharma and have taken interest, and they have also become more interested in preserving this complete teaching of the Buddha, and also within amongst the lay people, people have been taking the interest in studying the Dharma, and then in Tibet, inside Tibet also, people are taking an interest in studying the Dharma, and also in the Himalayan regions, among the general public, from Ladakh to Muntawang in Arunachal Pradesh, People have taken interest in the Dharma and have held discussions on the Dharma. Although, despite the very sad situation of the Tibet and Tibetans, but outside Tibet, people have found there is newfound interest in Tibetan Buddhist tradition. So, in fact, as the prayer says, may in all my lives, may never separate from my perfect gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma. It is actually a reality with us, enjoying the magnificent Dharma. And also, as Vasubandhu says, the practice and the teaching of or study of the Dharma is the way you preserve the Dharma. And so we should continue our studies of the Dharma and pay attention to, take more interest. Of course, regarding the study, there may be different texts, some extensive and some shorter ones, according to the students' own capacity. But at least we should make ourselves aware of the entire structure of Buddhism. We talk about we say, may I quickly attain state of Vajradhara. So we should know how to actually reach that goal of Vajradhara. Without actually knowing them, just making prayer will not lead you to that. So if you are sick, you have to know the cause of the sickness, and then what are the symptoms, and then what medicines can actually cure it. Of course, you will not get cured right away, but gradually you will be able to cure your sickness or illness. And similarly, what the path is leading to Buddhahood, and how to actually proceed on that path, we should know them, whether in an abbreviated way or in an extensive way, and then make transformation within our mind. Just being extroverted, just turning your mind outside, and then just being engaged in intellectual study, intellectual game for the study of Dharma, and will not help. This in fact can be used negatively for despising others. So sometimes what people do is, after having come from Tibet, at which time they didn't really have anything to carry with them, then after coming into exile, when they get more students, especially students from the Western countries, they become really a bit proud and arrogant, and this is not good. So, as if you do not examine your own faults, then you could be in robes, monastic or religious robes, but you will be a charlatan. And so, for example, I regarding myself, I always kind of tell myself, be careful, be cautious. And so, as the first Dalai Lama says, study and listening and studying the Dharma will not to overcome one's own negative emotions, but to argue with others is not the right way of studying and practicing the Dharma, and therefore one should actually study the Dharma in order to make transformation within your own mind to overcome these negative emotions. And so, having learned the path to Buddhahood, we should actually apply ourselves to practice. So if you familiarize with the path, then nothing can be difficult, as Shantideva says in Bodhisattva Charyavatara. Although I do not have real experience of the Dharma, but compared to those who have no experience at all, or nil, I can say that I can feel now that having trained myself in the path, then I feel that now if I really can put some effort, then I can actually have the experience of the Dharma. And so at this time when we have a human life, if we do not put ourselves to practice, then when will you actually do this practice? So if you don't actually study or practice, put the Dharma into practice, then your prayer to attain Vajradhara is mere words, and doesn't make sense. Today, the sponsors and patrons of the teaching have actually published the text, and so everybody has the text with you. Unless you take care of these books, then you could actually use these books. So you can actually keep these books in your rooms. I brought my text in an emergency case on the 17th of March 1959 when I had to flee Lhasa. So I brought this Lamrim Chemo text with me under this very difficult circumstances. So you have received the teachings based on this text of the great treatise on the stages of the path. And so you should keep this inseparable from you and try to read them sometimes, and then also supplement it with different parts, relevant parts from Abhisamaya Alamkara and Madhyamaka Avatara. In other words, this text actually shows the parts which are shown in the taught in the Prajaparamita study of Prajaparamita and Madhyamaka. So you should actually pay attention to this Lamrim Chemo and try to study it. So with the correct motivation, please listen to the teaching. So, Volume 3, Chapter 3, How to Focus Your Mind on the Object of Meditation, has 3 parts presenting the flawless method, eliminating flawed methods, and indicating the length of sessions. Regarding the first, the concentration that you will accomplish here has 2 special features: vivid intensity and non-discursive stability, staying one-pointedly on the object of meditation. So whatever object you have chosen, your focal point, when the mind actually stays on it, and not only staying there, but on top of that, if the mind is very alert, in some Dzogchen guided meditations, They say that it's like a hawk, as if a hawk is actually coming out of its nest. So the mind should be very alert and not dull. There shouldn't be dullness or some kind of darkness falling on the mind. So this should be the state of mind. So there should be vivid intensity and intense mental clarity and non-discursive stability, staying one point on the object of meditation. Some add bliss. Dire. Marilmiş. Dir. So please read on. Some add bliss to these, making these three features. Others add limpidity as well, making four. However, limpidity is included in the first feature, so it does not have to be listed as a separate item. Delight and bliss, which impart a sense of well-being, do occur as results of the concentration that you will accomplish here, but they are not concomitant with all of the concentrations which are included in the access to the first meditative concentration. Also, the concentration of the fourth meditative stabilization, which is said to be the best basis for achieving the good qualities of all the three vehicles, is not associated with any physical or mental bliss. Thus, delight and bliss are not counted as features here. While some of the concentrations on the formless levels lack highly vivid intensity, there is nothing wrong with presenting vividness as one of these two features. For Maitreya's ornament for Mahayana Sutra refers meditative stabilization other than the formless realm. This means that bodhisattvas, except for some powerful bodhisattvas, achieve good qualities by relying on concentrations within the levels of meditative stabilization. Since the development of this sort of vivid intensity is blocked as long as there is laxity, while one point it is non-discursiveness is blocked as long as there is excitement, laxity. Excitement are so basically we have our faith and belief, and which actually has some degree of focus on the object. And therefore, what we are talking about here is using this kind of a basic quality that we already have and using it and then making progress along the path. And without having any kind of basis within ourselves, then we cannot actually progress further. And therefore, you need to familiarize your mind with this basic quality that we already have, and then make advancements on it. So the chief obstacles are achieving genuine concentration. So if you do not understand how to identify accurately the subtle and coarse forms of laxity and excitement, or if you do not know how to correctly sustain a concentration which stops these ones, you have identified them. Then once you have identified them, then it will be impossible for you to develop serenity, not to mention that. So mindfulness helps the mind to not forget the object, whether the mind actually stays on the object or not, or even if it stays there, but it's not like slackened in its effort, then you need to. So whether this is happening or not, you need the introspection. Those two things are needed for this. A technique in which your attention is not distracted from whatever it had as its original object of meditation, and an accurate awareness of whether you are distracted and whether you are becoming distracted. The former is mindfulness, the latter is vigilance. And then there's quotation from the commentary on the ornament of Mahayana Sutras. If a lapse in mindfulness leads to forgetting the object of meditation, you will be distracted and will immediately lose the object upon which you are meditating. Therefore, the foundation of cultivating concentration is mindfulness, which does not forget the object. How does such mindfulness focus your mind right on the object of meditation? Once you have at least visualized the object of meditation in the minimal manner as explained above, the generate a powerful apprehension. So with regard to mindfulness, there is co-emergent mindfulness, or mindfulness that is actually cultivated. And so there are different types of mindfulness, perhaps, but this indicates that mindfulness has three features. It observes object is a familiar object. Its observed object is a familiar object, since mindfulness does not occur with regard to a previously unfamiliar object. And so when we talk about remembering something, we need to have some memory. In this case, the image of the previously ascertained object of meditation appears. Its subjective aspect of our manner of apprehension is your mind's not forgetting the object, as indicated by the praise. Your mind is not forgetful. In this case, it's your mind's non-forgetfulness of the object of meditation. What does non-forgetfulness mean? It is not mentioned in reference to merely being able to remember what your guru taught you about the object of meditation, thinking or saying. The object of meditation is like this: when you cast your mind to it, or when someone asks you about it. Rather, it refers to how your attention is fixed on the object of meditation and brings it to mind clearly without even the slightest distraction. So it's not just what you have heard, but while in the moment of you focusing your mind, you have to keep the object in your mind. If you are distracted, you lose your mindfulness to the extent that you are distracted. Therefore, after you have set your attention on the object of meditation in the manner explained above, you think, in this way I have fixed my attention on the object of meditation. Then, without the examination, you sustain the force of that awareness in unbroken continuity. This is the most critical point in the technique of maintaining mindfulness. And number three, its function is to keep your attention from wandering from the object of meditation. So fixing your attention on an object of meditation in this way and controlling it is said to be like taming an elephant. An elephant trainer ties a wild elephant to a tree or sturdy post with many thick ropes. If it does as the trainer teaches it, then fine. If not, it is subdued and controlled, struck repeatedly with a sharp iron hook. Your mind is like the untamed elephant. You bind it with a rope of mindfulness to the sturdy pillar of an object of meditation, such as I have explained above. If you cannot keep it there, you must gradually bring it under your control by goading it with the iron hook of vigilance. Bhaviveka's heart of the middle way states, the erring elephant of your mind is securely bound by the rope of mindfulness to the sturdy pillar of the object of meditation and is gradually controlled with the hook of intelligence. So when you have excitement or in lethargy or laxity, then you have to actually become aware of it. Or when these are about to set in, you have to be aware of them as well. So it is not contradictory that the former text likens vigilance to an iron hook, while the latter text compares it to a rope. Mindfulness directly or continually fastens your attention to the object of meditation. However, indirectly, my vigilance also focuses your attention on the object of meditation. For you depend on noticing actual or incipient laxity and excitement with the vigilance, and then stabilize your attention on the primary object without falling under their influence. Also, as cited above, the Master Vasubandhu says that both mindfulness and vigilance focus on mind on the object of meditation. So when here in meditation, you can use your mind as the object of your focus, your meditation, the focus of your meditation. It is said that you achieve concentration on the basis of mindfulness, and that mindfulness is like a rope that actually fastens your attention to the object of meditation continuously. So mindfulness is the main technique to sustain in achieving concentration. Also, mindfulness has a way of apprehending its object that carries a sense of certitude. If, while maintaining concentration, you stabilize your mind casually without a solid sense of certainty about the object, then your mind may take on limpid clarity, but it will not have the vivid intensity of certain knowledge, so you will not develop powerful mindfulness. Therefore, subtle laxity will be unchecked and only flawed concentration will ensue. Those who cultivate just non-discursive attention without stabilizing their attention on other objects of meditation, such as the divine body, bring to mind a personal instruction, stabilize your mind without thinking of an object at all. Then they must keep their attention from being distracted and wandering. This non-distraction is synonymous with mindfulness that does not forget the object of meditation. Thus, since this meditation is simply a technique of maintaining mindfulness, those who meditate in this way must also rely on a mindfulness that carries the force of certain knowledge. Eliminating the flawed methods, there are misconceptions to dispel, such as the following. If you set your consciousness at a high level, as you have explained above, and then tightly stabilize it without discursiveness, there will indeed not be even the slightest fault of laxity. However, since this increases excitement, you will see that you cannot prolong stability and your elevated consciousness is brought down. As you will see that relaxing a well-tightened mind quickly leads to stability. This technique is a great instruction. Reply. With a sense of assurance, these words proclaim in a loud voice, good relaxation is good meditation, yet they fail to differentiate laxity and meditation. Thus, as I explained above, flawless concentration must have two features. The firm stability of non-discursive attention does not alone suffice. And wrong position. At that time, laxity is when your mind darkens and becomes clouded. Without this, your mind has a limpid clarity, so your concentration is flawless. Reply. As this statement does not differentiate lethargy and laxity, I will elaborate on them later. Thus, if you use an intense cognition that is too tight, you may have clarity, but excitement will predominate so that it will be hard to develop stability. If you sustain your meditation after becoming greatly relaxed, then you may have stability, but laxity will predominate so that there is no vivid intensity. It is very hard to predominate so that there is no. It is very hard to find the right balance of tension so as to be neither too taut nor too relaxed. And for this reason, it is hard to develop a concentration free from laxity and excitement. With this in mind, the Master Chandrakami states in his praise of confession. If I use exertion, excitement arises. If I abandon it, slackness ensues. It is hard to find the right balance in this. What should I do with my troubled mind? The meaning of this is as follows. Use exertion means your mind is too tight. When you do this, excitement arises. When you let the tightness go and relax too much, you produce slackness, with your attention remaining inward. So it is difficult to find a proper balance for an even state of mind, free from laxity and excitement. Again, Buddha Shanti's commentary on the praise on confession says, exertion here refers to tightly focusing your mind on virtue with clear enthusiasm. And after you see the problem of incipient excitement, you abandon your exertion. That is, you give up your effort. Therefore, your attention becomes slack. Chandrakami's praise of confession also states, if I strain to engage the object, excitement occurs. If I relax, slackness develops. It is hard to find a practice in midway between these two. What should I do with my troubled mind? Buddha Shanti's commentary on this is clear. And therefore, Chandrakami says it is hard to find a concentration that is the right balance or midway practice, free from the two extremes of laxity and excitement. If getting quite relaxed were adequate, there would not be any problem at all. Since the text says that this leads to laxity, it is obviously improper to use this method to achieve concentration. It is not enough to have clarity, which is simply the limpid quality of a very relaxed mind. There also must be a degree of tightness in the way you apprehend the object. In his discussion of the method used in the first 2 of 9 mental states, the noble Asanga says, for stabilizing and properly stabilizing your mind on this object, there is the attention of tight focus. Also, Kamalai Shila's first stages of meditation says, after you clear away laxity, firmly hold just the object of meditation. And Kamalai Shila's second stage of meditation states, then, after you have quelled laxity, We have quiet laxity. By all means, make it so that your mind very clearly just see just the object of meditation. When Kamalashila says, your mind very clearly sees, he does not mean only that the object is clear. He means that your mind's way of apprehending the object is clear and firm. The above-mentioned way of maintaining mindfulness is extremely important. Without knowing it, your mind will show a great number of faults, such as slipping into great forgetfulness commensurate with the amount of your meditation, or dulling the wisdom that differentiates phenomena. Nevertheless, you mistakenly presume that you have a solid concentration. A question: while mindfulness fixes your attention on the object of meditation, as explained above, is it appropriate to monitor your mind meditation and think about whether you are holding the object of meditation well? You have to do this for Kamalajila's second stages of meditation states. After you have thus set your attention on whatever your chosen object of meditation may be, fix it there continuously. While you stay right with the object, analyze and investigate your mind, thinking, is my mind apprehending the object of meditation well, or is it lax, or is it distracted by the appearance of external objects? It is not that you stop your concentration and then look at your mind. Rather, while maintaining your state of concentration, you just look to see whether your attention is staying, where it was previously set on the primary object of meditation, or if it is not, whether there is laxity or excitement. After you have settled into concentration, you monitor this at moderate intervals, neither too often nor too seldom. If you do this while the intensity and force of the previous awareness are not quite gone, it takes place within the perspective of this awareness. This has the purpose of both enabling long-lasting, intense stability and letting you quickly recognize laxity and excitement. Accordingly, this is how you sustain your mindfulness. For a necessary course of powerful and continuous mindfulness is sustaining your meditation by repeatedly reminding yourself at intervals of the intended object of meditation. Asanga's Shravaka level says, in this regard, what's one-pointed mind, any continuum of attention that remembers again and again, focuses on a consistently similar object, and is continuous, free of misdeeds, and possessed of delight is called concentration, as well as a one-pointed virtuous mind. What does it remember again and again? You perceive the object of meditation, the characteristic of someone in equipoise, from the viewpoint of any teaching that you have memorized or heard, and upon which you have received instructions and explications from your gurus. You engage and focus on this object with continuous mindfulness. Also, Sthiramatha's explanation of separation of the middle from the extreme states. The statement mindfulness means not forgetting the object of meditation, means that you mentally express the instructions on stabilizing your mind. Therefore, you maintain mindfulness to stop forgetfulness, wherein you stray from the object of meditation. Hence, non-forgetfulness of the object of meditation, wherein forgetfulness is stopped, is when you mentally express the object of meditation. You bring the object of meditation to mind again and again. For example, when you are anxious, about forgetting something, it will be hard to forget if you recall it again and again. So this chapter 3 is finished. Now, middle-length Lamrim, how to direct the mind towards it, has 3 points: the presentation of the faultless approach, eliminating faulty approaches, and indicating the length of session. The presentation of fault has 9 points, indicating that faultless meditative stabilization has 2 features. How it is unreasonable that some people add bliss and the like, making it 3 or 4 distinctions. And 3, identification, laxity, and excitement, and the importance of skill. Identification, laxity, and excitement, and the importance of skill in the method for sustaining meditative stabilization. That stops to the 2. How both mindfulness and introspection are necessary, and it means for the mind not to wander off from the object. how the mind is directed towards the meditation object through mindfulness, identification of mindfulness, how it is shown through an analogy that mindfulness continuously ties the mind to the object, and how to meditative stimulation becomes faulty without a firm mode of apprehension of the sustaining consciousness, and even someone wishing to achieve calm abiding by placing the mind without thinking of anything must generate the power of mindfulness. So regarding the first, a meditative stabilization to be accomplished here has two features, as said in Lamrim. It has a factor of intense clarity of an extremely clear mind, and it has the factor of non-conceptual stability of mind abiding single-pointed on its object. And regarding the second point, how some add bliss and make it three features, others add limpidity and make it four. However, limpidity has two aspects. Limpidity of one's consciousness feels more limpid than even an immaculate crystal bowl full of immaculate water being hit by sunlight in the absence of cloud. And when the aspect of the objects, such as pillars, appear, a limpidity arises that feels as if one could count even their finest particles. These two nevertheless arise from the intensity of clarity factor being generated and sustained after subtle laxity has been eliminated. Therefore, it is not necessary to mention them separately in the beginning. Although joy and bliss in the form of pleasurable sensations arise as an effect of the meditative stabilization to be accomplished here, they do not arise in association with the meditative stabilization included in the preparatory stage or the first concentration, and therefore are not counted here. The emergence of such an intensity in the clarity factor is impeded by laxity, and single-pointedness, single-pointed non-conceptuality is impeded by excitement. Precisely that is the reason why these two, laxity and excitement, become the main obstacles to the accomplishment of pure meditative stabilization. And number three, that is why if you do not know how to identify subtle and gross laxity and excitement, and if you do not know an impeccable method for sustaining meditative stabilization that stops both of them, even calm abiding, not to mention special insight, cannot arise. Therefore, the intelligence who strive for meditative stabilization should become skilled in this way. That is to say, laxity and excitement are adverse conditions to the accomplishment of calm abiding, and the identification of adverse conditions as well as the actual methods for stopping them are taught below. So here I will describe how to generate meditative stabilization, a favorable condition for calm abiding. And number four, in this regard, meditative stabilization is the factor of the mind single-pointedly abiding on its object. That is to say, it must stay on the object continuously. For that, there are two requirements: a means of not letting the mind get distracted from its original object, and awareness of whether or not it actually is distracted. The first is mindfulness, second is introspection. When mindfulness deteriorates and you forget the meditation object, there is distraction and you lose the object immediately. Therefore, mindfulness that does not forget the object is the root. This is how to direct, number five, this is how to direct how to direct the mind towards this object. You visualize the basis of observation as explained above. Then once it just about appears, you should generate a forceful mode of apprehending the object with your consciousness, uplift the mind and place it without newly analyzing it. And then next, there's 2 points: a source identifying the entity of mindfulness and the features of mindfulness. Comparative knowledge, mindfulness is said to have 3 features. What is mindfulness? Non-forgetfulness of the mind with respect to a thing it is familiar with, so its function is utter non-distraction. And the object, the feature of mindfulness has 3 points. The feature of object, since mindfulness does not arise with respect to a hitherto unfamiliar object, it says a thing it is familiar with. In this context, it is the appearance of the basis of observation having been ascertained before. And the feature of mode of apprehension, the non-forgetfulness of mind, is the factor that the mind does not forget an object. In this context, it does not forget the basis of observation. The manner in which the mind does not forget it is not said to be the mere ability to remember your past master's teaching. The basis of observation is like this. When others ask, and you are made to think about it, rather the mind tied to the object is directly mindful of it and does not get distracted even in the slightest. When there is distraction, mindfulness is lost through its mere occurrence. Hence, after you have placed the mind on the basis of observation, you should generate the thought. This is how it is tied to the object. And then, without renewed conceptual thought, without interrupting the force of this very mind, sustain it continuously. That is the essential point about how mindfulness is applied. And the feature of the function, its functional feature is not to let the mind get distracted from its object. And how it is shown through the analogy that mindfulness continuously tied the mind to the object. So the unerring elephant of the mind is firmly tied with a rope of mindfulness to a stable pillar, the object, and gradually ruled with a hook of intelligence. And stage of meditation 2 says, with a rope of mindfulness and introspection, the elephant of the mind should be tied to that very tree trunk of the object. It is said that the meditative stabilization accomplishes independence of mindfulness, and that, like a rope, mindfulness continuously ties the mind to the object. Therefore, the principal method for fostering the accomplishment of meditative stabilization is that of sustaining mindfulness. Your mindfulness has a mode of apprehension with an aspect of ascertainment. So, when you foster meditative stabilization and place the mind without a firm mode of apprehension of the ascertaining consciousness, you gain clarity factor of mental limpidity. But the clarity factor of stark intensity of the ascertaining consciousness does not emerge. As a result, powerful mindfulness does not arise, and since subtle laxity is not stopped either, the meditative stabilization becomes faulty. And even someone who sends mere non-conceptuality of the mind without placing it on any other passage of observation, such as the deity's body, should remind himself, I will place the mind without thinking of any object whatsoever, and then prevent the mind from scattering and being distracted, since non-distraction is also synonymous with mindfulness that does not forget the object. He does not deviate from the above method of sustaining mindfulness. Therefore, someone who meditates in this manner also applies the mindfulness that reveals the power of sustaining consciousness. Eliminating faulty approaches has 8 points. Identifying a misconception that should be eliminated. There is a following kind of misconception. When the mind is aroused, as explained above, held tight and placed on the object non-conceptually, there is no laxity, but excitement predominates. I can see that I will not thereby gain the capacity for a continuous stability factor. However, with my lofty awareness lowered, by loosening my tight grip on it a lot, I see stability factor rise quickly. This is an excellent method. A lot of people think so and expound. Best meditation during best relaxation. It's elimination. However, this position fails to distinguish between the occurrence of laxity and the occurrence of meditation. As explained earlier, faultless meditative stabilization requires two features. Stability factor of non-conceptual mind by itself is not enough. If you think, in such a case, when the mind has become confused and there is darkness, that this is laxity, whereas otherwise it is faultless meditative stabilization, because there is the clarity factor of mental limpidity. Apparently, you fail to distinguish between lethargy and laxity. These will be explained below, and how it is difficult for faultless meditative stabilization with the two features to arise. The next point. How to meditate, balancing tightness and relaxation. Presence of the sources for this, and the fault of knowing how to apply meditation, and need to watch with inspection while holding the object with mindfulness. Move to Lamrim Chemov, chapter 4. Regarding the third, what to do after you focus on an object of meditation, has two sections. What to do when laxity and excitement occurs. what to do when laxity and excitement are absent. Regarding the first, it has two parts. Using the remedy for failing to recognize laxity and excitement, using the remedy for failing to try to eliminate them even when they are recognized. Regarding the first point, this has two sections: the defining characteristics of laxity and excitement, and the method for developing vigilance that recognizes them during meditation. Regarding the first, the excitement is defined in Asanga's compendium of knowledge. What is excitement? It is an unquiet state of mind considered a derivative of attachment, which pursues pleasant object and acts as an impediment to meditative serenity. There are three aspects to this definition. Its object is an attractive and pleasant one. Its subjective aspect is that your mind is unquiet and scattered outward. As it is a derivative of attachment, it engages its object with a sense of craving. Its function is to impede stabilization of your mind on its object. When your attention is inwardly fixed upon its object, excitement, which is attached to form, sound, and so on, pulls your attention helplessly towards these objects and causes distraction. As it says in Chandragomin's praise of confession, just as you are focused on meditative serenity, directing your attention toward it again and again, the news of afflictions pulls your attention helplessly with the hope of attachment to objects. Is it excitement when there is scattering in which other afflictions distract your mind away from the object, or, for that matter, when there is scattering towards other virtuous objects? Excitement is a derivative attachment, so being distracted by other afflictions is not excitement. Rather, it is the mental process of distraction, which is one of the 22 secondary afflictions, scattering toward virtuous object may involve any virtuous mind or mental process, so not all scattering is excitement. Many translations render laxity, Chingwa, as slackness, but this slackness should not be construed as meaning discouragement. As for its definition, most yogis among these snowy peaks seem to consider laxity to be a lethargic state of mind that stays on its object of meditation without scattering elsewhere, but lacks limpid clarity. This is incorrect, for lethargy is said to cause laxity, so the two are distinct, as suggested in Kamalashila's second stages of meditation. If, being oppressed by lethargy and sleepiness, you see your mind become lax or in danger of laxity. Also, the sutra unraveling the intention says, if there is laxity due to lethargy or sleepiness, or so with regard to the subtle laxity, there are virtuous states of mind. Lethargy or sleepiness, or if you are afflicted by any secondary affliction in meditative absorption, it is a case of internal mental distraction. This states that when your mind becomes lax due to lethargy and sleepiness, it is distracted inwardly. Asanga's compendium of knowledge also discusses laxity in the context of the secondary afflictions of distraction, but distraction, as he explains, it may also be virtuous, so it is not necessarily afflictive. Of lethargy, then Asanga's compendium of knowledge says, what is lethargy? An unserviceable state of mind classified as a derivative of delusion. It works to assist all root afflictions and secondary afflictions. So, this derivative of the delusion is the heaviness and unserviceability of body and mind. Vasubandhu's Treasury of Knowledge Outer Commentary says, what is lethargy? Lethargy, the heaviness of body and the heaviness of the mind, which are the unserviceability of the body and the unserviceability of the mind. Laxity means that your mind's way of apprehending the object of meditation is slack, and it does not apprehend the object with much vividness or firmness. So, even if it is limpid, if your mind's way of apprehending the object is not highly vivid, then laxity has set in. I have not seen a clear presentation of definition of laxity in other classic texts other than the stages of meditation of Kamalashila. Laxity may be virtuous or ethically neutral, whereas lethargy is neither a non-virtuous or an ethical neutral mental obstruction, and it is invariably a derivative of delusion. Moreover, the classic texts say that to dispel laxity, you must bring to mind pleasant objects such as the body of the Buddha or meditate on light so as to stimulate your mind. Therefore, you have to stop the object from appearing unclearly, as though darkness were descending on your mind, and you have to put an end to the quality of attention which has become flaccid. You need both a clear object of meditation and a tight way of apprehending the object. Neither a clear object alone nor transparency of the subject alone is enough. It is easy to recognize excitement, but laxity is hard to comprehend since it is not clearly identified in the authoritative classic texts. It is also very important because in this case it is a major point of a misunderstanding concerning flawless concentration. Therefore, you should experience laxity with an exacting awareness, and on that basis, examine it well and identify it in accordance with Kamalashila stages of meditation. The method for developing the vigilance that recognizes laxity and excitement. So next topic, using the remedy for failing to try to eliminate them even when they are recognized. And then next, this section has two parts. It says intention and the way that it stops laxity and excitement, and number two, the underlying causes of laxity and excitement. Regarding first, Asanga's compendium of knowledge says this: what is intention, and so forth. The question and the reply. So what is intention? It is the mental activity of applying your mind, having the function of drawing your mind to virtue, non-virtue, or the ethically neutral. This is how you should understand it. For example, iron filings are compelled to move under the influence of the magnet. Similarly, the mental process of intention moves and stimulates your mind toward virtue, non-virtue, ethically neutral. So it here refers to an intention that applies your mind to the elimination of laxity or excitement when one of them occurs. And then the question: after you have thus aroused your mind to eliminate laxity and excitement, how do you stop laxity and excitement? Then reply: mental laxity involves a very excessive inward withdrawal, leading to slippage in the way you apprehend the object of meditation. So you should direct your mind to delightful things that cause it to expand outward. This should be something like a very beautiful image of the Buddha, not something delightful that gives rise to afflictions. Or bring to mind an image of light, such as sunlight. When this clears away laxity, it immediately tighten the way you apprehend the object and sustain that in meditation, as Kamalashila's first stage of meditation explains. So in this situation, you do not meditate on a disenchanted object, but because disenchantment causes your mind to withdraw inward. When you expand your mind by using discerning wisdom to analyze an object of your choice, this also stops laxity. Arashura's Compendium of Perfection says, when slack, your mind is stimulated and inspired by virtue of an energy of striving for insight. Thus, laxity or slackness is as follows. The state of mind, the two terms described, is called laxity. Because there is a decline in the way you apprehend the object of meditation. It is called slackness because there is an excessive withdrawal inward. You counteract it by stimulating the way you apprehend the object and by making the object of meditation extensive so as to expand your mind. Bhava Viveka's Heart of Middle Way states, in the case of slackness, you expand your mind by meditating on an extensive object, and further, in the case of slackness, inspire yourself by observing the benefit of joyous effort. Also, Shantideva's Compendium of Training states, if your mind become slack, inspire yourself by cultivating delight. The great scholars and adepts are in agreement on this matter. So here is the most important remedy for stopping laxity. When you reflect on the good qualities of such things as the three jewels, the benefits of the spirit of enlightenment, and the great significance of attaining the Asia, it should have a bracing effect on your mind. Just as cold water is thrown in the face sleeping person, this depends on your having had experience with discerning analytical meditation on these beneficial topics. If you cultivate a remedy for being accustomed to the underlying causes of laxity, namely lethargy, sleepiness, something that induces these two, wherein your mind takes on a gloomy aspect, then laxity resulting from these causes will not arise, or if it has arisen, will stop. In this regard, Asanga's Shravaka levels suggest such activities as going for a walk, holding an image of brightness in your mind and familiarizing your mind with it repeatedly, pursuing any of the six recollections, the Buddha teaching, community, ethical discipline, generosity, and deities, stimulating your mind by means of other inspiring objects of meditation, orally reciting teachings that discuss the faults of lethargy and sleepiness, gazing in different levels and at moon and stars, and washing your face with water. Also, if laxity is very slight and occurs only infrequently, tighten up your apprehension of the object and continue meditating. But if laxity is dense and seems to occur repeatedly, suspend your cultivation of concentration, clear away laxity using any of those remedies, and then resume your meditation. Whether your object of meditation entails directing your mind inward or outward, if the object isn't clear and you have the sense of darkness, slight or dense, descending on your mind, then it will be hard to cut through laxity if you continue to meditate without eliminating it. Therefore, as a remedy for that, repeatedly meditate on the appearance of light. Asanga's Shravaka level states the so cultivating serenity and insight correctly with a mind that is bright and so forth. So since he says you should cultivate brightness even when the object of meditation is clear from the beginning, this is all the more true when it is unclear. Asanga's Shravaka levels also describes how to hold the sign of brightness in meditation. Hold in meditation the sign of brightness from the light of an oil lamp, the light of a bonfire, or the orb of the sun. Meditate on the sign of brightness not only while cultivating concentration, but on other occasions as well. In this case, excitement. In this case of excitement or out of attachment, your attention pursues objects such as forms and sounds. So in response to that, bring to mind disillusioning things that cause your attention to be drawn inward. As soon as this calms the excitement, settles your mind on the earlier object of meditation. Kamalashala's first stage of meditation states, when you see that your mind is occasionally becoming excited, as you recall previous excitement, play, and so forth, calm the mind, calm the excitement by bringing to mind disillusioning things such as impermanence. Then strive to engage the object of meditation without your mind becoming involved in clarity. And Bhaviveka's Heart of Middle Way states, calm excitement by bringing to mind impermanence and so forth. And pull your mind back from distraction by noting the faults of distracting objects. As Chandideva's companion training states, if excitement occurs, calm it by bringing impermanence to mind. So, if very strong or prolonged excitement arises, it is crucial that you relax the meditation for a while and cultivate a sense of disenchantment, rather than attempting to pull in your mind and direct it back to the object of meditation every time it becomes scattered. For excitement that is not so dominant, draw in the scattered attention and fix your attention upon the object of meditation. This is because Aryashura's Compendium of the Perfection states, when your mind becomes excited, stop this disturbance by calming it and stabilizing your mind. And Asanga's text on the levels says that this sutra passage, you focus your mind, refers to remedy for excitement. It is generally said that if your mind is excited, you should focus on the object of meditation. If it is lax, you should think about a delightful object. Asanga's Shravaka level states this. Thus, once your mind has become withdrawn inward and you note that there is slackness or the threat of slackness, gladden your mind by thinking of an inspiring thing. This is maintaining your mind. How do you settle your mind? While maintaining your mind, when you note that your mind is excited or that there is the threat of excitement, withdraw your mind inwards and settle in a calming stabilization. When your mind is excited, do not bring to mind an inspiring and delightful objects, because this will cause your mind to be distracted outward. And next topic, the underlying causes of laxity and excitement. Passage from the levels of yogic deeds. Two passages. So what to do? So regarding this topic, in the summary it says, withdraw your mind. In summary, withdraw your mind from scattering excitement, inwardly fixing it upon the object of meditation, and seek stability. Each time stability occurs, take great precaution against laxity and bring forth a vivid intensity. You will achieve flawless concentration by alternating between these two. Do not expect to attain stability by means of mere limpidity, which lacks the vividness that goes along with an intense way of apprehending the object. So what to do when laxity and excitement are absent? By continuing to meditate after eliminating even subtle laxity and excitement, as explained above, your mind will enter a state of equipoise that is free from the imbalances of either laxity or excitement. At this point, it is a fault of concentration to apply or exert yourself, so cultivate equanimity as a remedy for this. Kamala Shila's second stage of meditation says, when laxity and excitement have gone, and you see that your attention is calming, remaining on the object of meditation, calmly remaining on the object of meditation, relax your effort and abide in equanimity. Then remain this way for as long as you.
Page number 67. What to do when laxity and excitement are absent? By continuing to meditate after eliminating even subtle laxity and excitement. As explained above, your mind will enter a state of equipoise that is free from imbalance of either laxity or excitement. At this point, it is a fault of concentration to apply or exert yourself, so cultivate equanimity as a remedy for this. Kamala, the second stage of meditation says, when laxity and excitement has gone and you see that your attention is calmly remaining on the object of meditation, relaxed your effort and abide in equanimity, then remain this way for as long as you please. How can it be that applying yourself or making an effort turns into a problem? Through meditation, turning your attention inward when your mind is excited and stimulating your mind when it is lax, you gain confidence that laxity and excitement will not occur during each suitable meditation session. At this point, you are still extremely wary of laxity and excitement just as the outset. Sustaining this is the problem. Your mind will become distracted. So at that time, you must know to relax as stated in Kamala Shila's second and third stages of meditation. If you exert yourself when your mind is entered a state of equipoise, then your mind will be distracted. This entails relaxing the effort but not sacrificing the intensity of the way you apprehend your object. Therefore, this cultivation of equanimity is not to be done every time laxity and excitement are absent, but once you have reduced the force of laxity and excitement, for when you have not done so, there is no equanimity. What sort of equanimity is this? Generally, three types of equanimity are taught. The feeling of impartiality, that is one among the four immeasurables, and equanimity with respect to application. This is equanimity with respect to application. Its nature is to be understood in accordance with the passage from Asanga Sarvaga levels. What is equanimity? As your mind attends to the objects of meditation associated with serenity and insight, it is focusing with calm settling, spontaneous mental engagement, a sense of mental well-being, effortless mental functioning after becoming serviceable, and the mental balance free from afflictions. Page number 69. The above explanations of the method for developing flawless concentration are in accord with Venerable Maitreya's teaching from the separation of middle from the extremes. Staying with their joyous perseverance, your mind becomes serviceable and you attain all goals. This occurs as a result of eliminating the 5 faults and relying on the 8 antidotes. The 5 faults are laziness, forgetting the instructions, laxity and excitement, non-application and application. 8 antidotes are the basis that based on 8, the cause, the effect, not forgetting the object of meditation, recognizing laxity and excitement, application to eliminate them, and calmly stabilizing your mind when they have been coiled. In those verses, staying with that refers to keeping up the output of joyous perseverance for the sake of dispelling unfavorable conditions. With this, a concentration in which your mind is serviceable arises. Moreover, since this is the foundation or basis of supernormal power which achieve all goals, superknowledge and so forth, you attain all goals. What do you do to develop such concentration? It develops as a result of using the 8 antidotes in order to eliminate the 5 faults. These are the 5 faults. At the time of preparation, laziness is a fault when you do not apply yourself at concentration. When you are working at concentration, forgetting the instruction is a fault, because when you forget the object upon which you were instructed to meditate, your mind is not set in equipoise upon the object of meditation. When it is set in meditative equipoise, laxity and excitement are false because they make your mind unserviceable. When laxity and excitement augur lack of effort is a fault because it does not quell those two. When laxity and excitement are absent, the fall is the intention of application. Kamaleshala's 3 stages of meditation point out that there are 5 faults if laxity and excitement are treated as one, since if they are listed separately. Among the remedies for those faults, the 8 antidotes, there are 4 remedies for laziness, confidence, yearning, effort, and pliancy. Then the remedies for forgetfulness, laxity, excitement, non-application, and application are respectively mindfulness, vigilance that recognizes laxity and excitement, the intention of application, and calmly established equanimity. I explained this extensively above. These are the most excellent instructions for achieving concentration. They are set forth in the great master Kamaleshala's 3 stages of meditation, as well as many expositions on achieving concentration by other great Indian scholars. They are also explained in the discussion on achieving serenity in Aditya's commentary on his own Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment. Earlier gurus of stages of path have conveyed a rough idea of these points, yet those wishing to cultivate meditative stabilization have not understood how to proceed. Thus I have set this forth at length. That mindfulness and vigilance remove laxity and excitement from your mind's one-pointed concentration is a common theme to all personal instruction on this practice. So this point is that you should sustain a meditation which likes this too. Back to Midland Lamrim. Midland Lamrim, page number 217. What to do after focusing the mind on object? What to do when excitement or laxity occurs? Applying the antidote to non-identification of laxity and excitement. Settling the characters of laxity and excitement. This is 3 points. Excitement is just as it is stated in the compendium of knowledge. What is excitement? It is a very unpacified mind that pursues pleasant signs and belongs to attachment. It is a function of disrupting calm abiding. It has 3 features. Its object is something attractive and pleasant. Its aspect is the mind being unpeaceful and scattered outward. Since it is part of attachment, it gets involved in its object through the aspect of craving. Its function is to disrupt the mind abiding on its object. When the mind is tied to an object within, through the excitement of attachment to forms such as sounds, the mind is drawn without control toward those objects and becomes distracted. It is just as stated in the praise of confession. However much you focus on calm abiding, your mind directed at something again and again, it is drawn away by a noose of mental afflictions without control with a rope of attachment to objects. In many translations, laxity is also rendered as sinking. Some people assert a lethargy in which the mind lacks clarity and limited and abides without scattering to other objects to be laxity, which is incorrect, for it says in the stages of meditation and in the sutra, unraveling the intended meaning, that laxity arises from lethargy. In the compendium of knowledge, laxity is indeed explained in the context of secondary affliction distraction. However, when there is distraction as explained there, virtue may also arise, so it is not necessarily afflicted. Consequently, in the compendium of knowledge and in the auto commentary on treasury of manifest knowledge, lethargy is said to be a heaviness, an unserviceability of the body and the mind that forms part of delusion. With laxity, the motor apprehension of the mind holding its object is slack, and the object is not held clearly or tightly. Therefore, even if there is a factor for limpidity, when the motive apprehending the object lacks clarity, there is laxity. From stages of meditation, you should understand that at times, when the mind does not see the object clearly, like someone blind or someone entering darkness or someone closing his eyes, at those times there is a laxity. In the other great texts, I have not seen a clear take on the characteristics of laxity. With regard to laxity, there is either virtue or neutrality, whereas lethargy is only a non-virtue or a neutral obscuration and part of delusion. In the great text, it says that in order to eliminate laxity, you should uplift the mind, meditating on a joyful object such as Buddha's image or light. Thereby, you prevent the object's lack of clarity, which is like darkness having fallen onto the mind, and decline in the mind's mode of apprehension. Then you need both a clear object and tightness in your mode of apprehension. Examination is easy to recognize that laxity is not clearly identified in the great text, which is why it is difficult to understand. Yet it is essential because there is a major ground for mistaking one's meditative stabilization to be faultless. Therefore, you should investigate and identify it well with mental subtlety, based on your experience and in accordance with statements in the stages of meditation. The method for generating introspection that realizes this during meditation has 5 points. It is not enough to merely have an understanding of laxity and examination. Rather, you need the ability to generate introspection that knows exactly whether or not laxity or examination have arisen during your meditation. In fact, not only do you need the ability to generate introspection that identifies the laxity and examination as soon as they arise due to the gradual generation of power introspection, you also need the introspection that recognizes them when they are just about to arise but have not actually arisen, for in stages of meditation it says, if you notice laxity of the mind or a suspicion that it is laxity, and if you notice excitement of the mind or a suspicion that is excited, as long as this kind of introspection has not arisen, although you decided that from this point till that point there are flawless meditation without laxity or excitement, this is baseless, for even if laxity or excitement were to arise, you will not be able to ascertain them given the powerful introspection has not arisen. In accordance with that, it also says in separation of middle from the extremes, once laxity and examination are realized, in order to realize laxity and examination, you need introspection. Therefore, if the introspection that cannot fail to recognize laxity and examination has not arisen, you may meditate for long and even while away years with subtle laxity and examination without sensing them as they occur. Well then, how do you generate introspection? Our most essential cause is the method for sustaining mindfulness presented earlier. If you can generate continuous mindfulness in that manner, you will be able to stop forgetting the object and wandering off. Thereby, you will stop long-term intensity to the occurrence of laxity and examination. Hence, you will recognize laxity and examination easily. This is very clear when you look at it from the perspective of your own experience, the amount of time it takes you to recognize the laxity and examination when mindfulness has deteriorated, and the amount of time it takes you when it has not. With this understanding, engaging in the Bodhisattva's conduct, it says, once mindfulness is there to stay at the gate of the mind in order to guard it, at that point introspection will come. Explanation of the separation of middle from the extremes also speaks of mindfulness as the cause of introspection. This one causes to observe the aspect of the deity's body and the like, that which is being apprehended, or the aspect of the apprehender, such as the experience, mere awareness, or mere clarity, and then while applying mindfulness as explained earlier, hold the mind watching continuously whether or not there is scattering. This should be understood as the essential point for sustaining introspection. In accordance with that, engaging in the Bodhisattva conduct also said, investigating again and again the state of body and mind. In brief, just that alone is characteristic of the guarding of introspection. By doing this, you therefore generate introspection that recognizes any laxity and excitement as soon as they are about to arise. By means of applying mindfulness, on the other hand, the forgetfulness of your mind being distracted and wandering off is stopped so that you observe well. You need to distinguish between them. On page number 221. Second paragraph. Now this laxity or sinking is lax because the mode of apprehending the object has gone down, and it is sinking because it has withdrawn inward too much. Therefore it is contracted by the enthusiasm of uplifting the mode of apprehension and expanding the object. In the essence of middle way, it says, when it sinks, expand the mind through meditation on spacious objects, and when it sinks, uplift it also by seeing the value of joyous effort. The most important antidote for stopping laxity is this: when you consider the benefit of three jewels and the mind of enlightenment, as well as the positive qualities of precious leisures you have gained and like, it should be as effective for refreshing your awareness as cold water when it is splashed onto the face of someone asleep. This depends on the experience you have gained through your analytical meditation of individual investigation on beneficial topics. When you apply the antidote meditation on light to the causes that reinforce the development of laxity, lethargy, and sleepiness, and mental states with an aspect of darkness that induce into two, laxity which depends on them does not arise, and that which is still in arisen is contracted. Sarvaga levels also talks about having a break from this activity, taking to mind the characters of light and familiarizing oneself with them again and again, uplifting the mind with any of the 6 recollections of the 3 jewels, ethics, giving entities, or other purifying objects, as well as reciting teachings that point out the disadvantages of lethargy and sleepiness, looking to the side or at the moon and the stars, washing one's face with water, and so forth. Furthermore, if the mental laxity is very slight and does not occur more than once in a while, you should tighten the mode of apprehension of the mind as you meditate. However, when dense laxity recurs and again, suspend the meditation, apply the antidotes as appropriate, and continue to meditate as soon as the laxity has been cleared away. If the object the mind is holding becomes unclear and as an aspect slight or dense of something like darkness falling upon the mind occurs, as an antidote to that, take up the characters of light such as butter lamp, fire, and sunshine. If you familiarize yourself with them again and again, a great limpidity of mind will arise. How to stop excitement? This is 2 points. When it comes to excitement, the mind runs after forms, sounds, and other objects due to attachment. So for that you should attend to something depressing, a cause for the mind to withdraw inward. However, as soon as the excitement has subsided, because of that you rest in equipoise. In essence of the middle way, it says, pacify excitement by attending, for instance, to impermanence. And you should collect the distracted mind by seeing the faults of the signs of distraction. When intense or long-lasting excitement occurs, it is effective to loosen the meditation for a while and meditate on something disillusioning, whereas collecting the mind inward and blessing it every time it scatters is not. Whenever the excitement is not that strong, you should collect the distracted mind inward and tie it to the object. In the compendium of the perfectionists, it says, whenever your mind has got excited, avert this by means of calm abiding. When an excited mind, you should not attend to inspiring or delightful objects, for they cause the mind to be distracted outward. Identifying the causes in dependence upon which laxity and excitement arise. This is 5 points. The common causes of the two, laxity and excitement, are not guarding one's sensors, not eating the right amount, not putting effort into one's practice without sleeping during the first and last parts of the night, and remaining without introspection. The causes of laxity are great sleepiness, the mind being excessively loose in its hold on its object, not balancing calm abiding and special insight, but relying on calm abiding too much. The mind remaining as though in darkness, do not take joy in directing the mind towards the object. Page number 223. What to do while free from laxity and excitement. This is 6 points. Since it is a mistake to apply antidotes through laxity and excitement have been cut off, you need to apply the antidote to that, the equanimity of natural composure. When even subtle laxity and excitement have been cut off as explained earlier, and the mind enters into equanimity without the imbalances of becoming either lax or excited through the meditation, at that time it will be a mistake for your meditative stabilization if you apply to antidotes or endeavors. So you should cultivate equanimity as the antidote to that. This is how your meditation becomes faulty, through application and endeavor, by bringing mind back inward and uplifting it whenever it is lax. You grow confident that laxity and excitement do not arise in every session. At that stage, it will be a mistake to be aware of laxity and excitement very much as in the beginning. If you did, your mind will become distracted, so you need to know how to loosen up. That is to say, loosen the endeavor rather than letting go of the intensity of your mode of apprehension. Therefore, this cultivation of equanimity is not performed where the laxity and excitement do not augur but from the time you are past the peak of laxity and excitement, because as long as you have not passed the peak for laxity and excitement, there is no equanimity. Well then, what is this equanimity? Among the three types of equanimity feeling, immeasurable equanimity, and equanimity of application, is the last one. It is the last one. Its entity is just as explained in Sarvaka levels. It is the mind resting even and at ease upon its object from the class of calm abiding or special insight, operating naturally and achieving serviceability. When you have achieved such equanimity, you should actualize it while cultivating meditative stabilization without strong endeavor, as long as laxity and excitement do not arise. This is in accordance with what is set forth in separation of the middle from the extremes. On that basis, the serviceability of one's mind achieves all goals if springs from the causes relying upon the 8 factors removing 5 faults: laziness, forgetfulness of the instructions, excitement and laxity, non-application and application. These are asserted to be the 5 faults. The basis and what is based on it, the cause and effect of that, not forgetting the object of reserve, realizing excitement and laxity, application to remove them, resting naturally when they are calmed. Here on that basis is on the basis of undertaking a choice effort in order to eliminating unfavorable conditions. Attaining serenity. So back to Lamrim Chemo. The stages in which mental states develop. In this section, there are 3 parts. The actual stages in which the mental states develop. These are the 9 mental states. Mental placement. This entails thoroughly withdrawing your attention from all outside objects and directing it inwardly to the object of meditation. Maitreya's ornament for the Mahayana Sutra states, after you have directed your attention to the object of meditation, continuous placement. Your attention that was initially directed to the object of meditation does not stray elsewhere, but is continuously set upon the object of meditation. The ornament for the Mahayana Sutras, its continued is not restricted. Once you are able to focus on the focal object for a longer time, and when you gain that the restriction is a little bit lesser compared to other, then at that time, when you have, if there are points where you have forgotten or where you have not been able to recollect, you must concentrate on those objects at that time. Third, patch placement. If your attention is drawn away by forgetfulness and distracted outward, you recognize this and again fix it upon the object of meditation, the ornament of Mahayana Sutra. Swiftly recognizing distraction, it is patched again. Close placement. Kamaleshala's first stage of meditation comments that with the previous mental state, you recognize distraction and eliminate it. With this mental state, you have eliminated distraction and with effort place your attention upon the object of meditation. taming, reflecting upon the advantages of concentration, you take delight in concentration, the ornament for Mahayana Sutta. This because you see the advantages. Your mind is tame in concentration. The Sarvaka levels comments that if your mind is distracted by signs of any of the 5 sensory objects of visual form and so on, of the 3 mental poisons of a man or a woman, you regard these 10 signs as disadvantages from the outside and do not let them scatter your mind. Regarding distraction as a fall, you quell any dislike for concentration, the ornament for the Mahayana Sutras, because you see the falls of distraction. You quell dislike for the meditation. The Sarvaka levels assert this if your attention is disturbed by thoughts such as those concerning sensory objects and by secondary afflictions such as obstructions involving attraction to the sensory. You regard this from the beginning as disadvantageous and do not allow your attention to be drawn to your thoughts and secondary afflictions. Complete pacification. This entails the fine pacification of the occurrence of attachment, melancholy, lethargy, sleepiness, etc. The ornament for the Mahayana Sutras. As soon as attachment, melancholy, etc. arrest, they are pacified. The Sarvaka level says that if the thoughts and secondary afflictions mentioned earlier arise as a result of forgetfulness, you do not submit to all that appear but eliminate them. One-pointed attention. This entails exerting effort so that you engage the object of meditation effortlessly. The ornament for Mahayana Sutras, then one endowed with restraint and enthusiasm events. Applies remedies for the obstacles to his or her mind and naturally achieves the 9th mental state. This is to be understood from the statement in the Sarvaka levels. By means of application, you have no hindrance, and since you continuously establish a flow of concentration, you make a single channel. Another term applied to the 8th mental state is single channeling, the meaning of which is easily understood. Balance placement. According to Kamaleshwara stages of meditation, this refers to equanimity that occurs when your mind becomes balanced. Ratnakara Santi's instruction from the perfection of wisdom says, this refers to spontaneous, natural attention and the attainment of independence as a result of familiarity with single channel. The ornament for the Mahayana Sutras, there are no application to the familiarity with it. The Sarvaka level says your mind is concentrated, and the meaning of this is clearly stated in the same text. As a consequence of dedication, familiarization, and frequent practice, you reach the path of both spontaneous and natural attention. With no application and with spontaneity, your mind enters into a flow of concentration that is without distraction. In this way, it is concentrated. The names of the 9 mental states are in accord with lines in Kamaleshwara, the first stages of meditation. This part of meditative serenity is explained in the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras and so on. The process of achieving them in the 6 forces. There are 6 forces of hearing, the force of hearing, the force of reflection, mindfulness, vigilance, enthusiasm, acquaintance. The method of accomplishing the mental state with these forces is as follows. With the force of hearing, you accomplish mental placement. The reason for this is that due to following the instructions that you have merely heard from someone else about focusing on the object of meditation. At first, you simply fix your attention about the object. With the force of reflection, you accomplish the mental state of continual placement, for as a consequence of practice of repeatedly reflecting on the continuation of initial fixation of attention upon the object of meditation. For the first time, you achieve the ability to maintain a little continuity. With the force of mindfulness, you accomplish the mental states of patch placement and of close placements, for in the case of patch placement, your attention is distracted away from the object of meditation. You are mindful of the previous object of meditation and your attention is drawn back in. And in the case of close placement, you generate the power of mindfulness from the beginning, and this prevents your attention from being distracted away from the object of meditation. With the force of vigilance, you accomplish the mental states of taming and for pacification, for which vigilance you recognize the faults of being scattered toward thoughts and the signs of secondary afflictions by regarding them as faults. You do not let scattering away these to augur. With the force of enthusiasm, you accomplish the mental states of complete pacification and of one-pointed attention, for by striving to eliminate even subtle thoughts and secondary afflictions, afflictions. You do not submit to them, and by doing so, laxity, excitement, etc., are unable to interfere with your concentration. With the force of acquaintance, you accomplish with mental states of balanced placement, for with the force of great familiarity with the above, you develop effortless and natural concentration. This echoed exactly with the intended meaning of Asanga Sarvaga levels, so although they are alternatively explained, do not rely on them. The achievement of the ninth mental state can be understood in terms of an analogy. In the case of those who are extremely familiar with reciting scriptures and so on, if the initial motivation to recite arises and they begin, even though their mind is occasionally distracted elsewhere, the recitation continues effortlessly without interruption. In a similar fashion, once your mind is settled with mindfulness fixed upon the object of meditation, even if you do not continually cultivate mindfulness and vigilance, your concentration is able to focus continually for long periods of time without being interrupted by scattering. Since effort is not needed to maintain a continuous stream of mindfulness and vigilance, this is said to be without application or effort. For that to arise in an early phase of practice, you continually and energetically cultivate mindfulness and vigilance. During that phase, it is necessary to produce a concentration that can be sustained throughout the long meditation process, without its being able to be disturbed by such hindrances as laxity and excitement. This is the eighth mental state. This and the ninth state are similar in that they cannot be hindered by factors such as laxity and excitement that are incompatible with concentration. However, in this eighth state, you must interrupt to cultivate mindfulness and vigilance, so it is said to be associated with application or effort. Page number 77, last paragraph. Therefore, in summary, first of all, follow the personal instructions that you have heard and correctly apply the method for setting your attention in a balanced fashion. Then repeatedly reflect on the way of setting your attention, and as you are able to bring together a little continuity, sustain a continuous stream of attention. Then if your mindfulness declines and you become distracted, swiftly draw your attention back in and quickly become mindful that you have forgotten the object of meditation. Then generate the powerful mindfulness and bring forth the force of mindfulness that prevents distraction away from the object of meditation from the object. By accomplishing forceful mindfulness, by seeing the force of laxity, excitement, etc., which distract the attention away from the object of meditation, develop instant vigilance to monitor your attention. Then when you are distracted by even subtle forgetfulness, recognize this immediately and stop it short, and upon eliminating it, generate the power or effort to lengthen the flow of attention that is uninterrupted by hindrances. Once that is arisen, you master familiarity by meditating with effort and by accomplish the ninth mental state in which your concentration becomes effortless. Therefore, until yogis attain the ninth mental state, they must exert effort to apply their minds to concentration. But upon attaining the ninth mental state, even if they expend no effort for the purpose of settling the mind and meditative equipoise, their minds automatically become concentrated. Even in the case that this ninth mental state is attained, if pliancy is not achieved, then it, as will be explained later, if you are not even defined as attaining meditative serenity, how much less are you defined as achieving insight? Nevertheless, there are those who assert that when you achieve such concentration that is adorned with bliss, clarity, and non-discursive awareness, you have brought forth a non-discursive sublime wisdom that integrates the meditative equipoise and the post-equipoise state. Further, as will be discussed later on, there are a great many people who specifically confuse this nine mental state described in Asanga's Sarvaga levels with a combination of the stage of completion and highest yoga tantra. How the four attentions are involved in this Sarvaga level stage with respect to these nine mental states. Note that there are four types of attention: tight focus, intermittent focus, uninterrupted focus, spontaneous focus. Now in the first two mental states of the mental placement and correct mental placement, there is the attention of tight focus. In the next five mental states of withdrawn mental placement, close placement, taming, pacification, and complete pacification, there is the attention of intermittent focus. In the eighth mental state of single channeling, there is the attention of uninterrupted focus. In the ninth state of concentrated awareness, there is the attention of effortless focus. During the first two mental states, the attention must be strenuously tight, so this is the tight focus. Then during the phases of next five mental states, there is interference by laxity and excitement, and you are unable to maintain long meditation sessions, so this is intermittent focus. Then since in the eighth mental state they are able to sustain long meditation sessions without interference by laxity and excitement, there is uninterrupted focus. Then since in the ninth mental state there is no interruptions and no need for continuous exertion, you apply the attention of effortless focus. In this case, during the first two mental states, there is uninterrupted focus, and during the intermediate five mental states, there is a need for tight focus. So why does one not speak of the attention of interrupted focus for the first two and of the attention of tight focus for the intermediate five mental states? Page number 79. The last outline, the measure of successful cultivation of serenity. Here there are three sections, a presentation of the dividing line between accomplishing and not accomplishing meditative serenity. This is two sections, a presentation of actual meaning. Once you have properly understood the means of cultivating concentration as explained previously, and then sustain them in meditation, the ninth mental states arise in sequence, and in the ninth state you are able to meditate for long sessions free of subtle laxity and excitement. Given that you have then achieved a concentration that becomes focused spontaneously without resorting to the effort of continual cultivation of mindfulness and vigilance, have you achieved meditative serenity or not? I shall explain. In the achievement of this concentration, there are those who do and those who do not achieve pliancy. So if pliancy is not achieved, this will be an approximation of meditative serenity, but would not be genuine serenity. Thus it is called an attention that approaches meditative serenity. This is clearly stated in the sutra. Unraveling the intended meaning, Bhagavan, when bodhisattvas direct their attention inward and focus it upon their minds, what is this attention called for as long as physical pliancy and mental pliancy are not achieved? Maitreya, this is not meditative serenity. You should say that it is associated with an aspiration that approximates meditative serenity. Maitreya's ornament for the Mahayana Sutra also states, as a consequence of familiarity, there is non-application, then upon achieving great pliancy of the body and mind, you are said to have attention. In this instance, attention refers to meditative serenity, as will be explained below in a citation for Asanga Sarvaka levels. Furthermore, Kamaleshila's second stage of meditation states that you must achieve both pliancy and the freedom to stabilize on the object of meditation. For you who have cultivated meditative serenity in this way, when your body and mind become pliant and you have master over your mind in directing it as you wish, at that time know that you have accomplished serenity. Thus, Kamaleshwara's first stages of meditation states, when your attention is focused on the object of meditation for as long as you wish without resort to an antidote, know that you have perfected serenity. The second stages of meditation clearly indicates that the above citation also refers to the presence of pliancy. Furthermore, the economity explained in Maitreya's separation from the middle from the extreme among the 8 antidotes has the same meaning as the 9 mental states referred to here. It states that this alone does not suffice and you need pliancy as well. Ratnakarasanti's instruction for the perfection of wisdom very clearly states the bodhisattvas dwelling alone in solitary places direct their attention to their intended object. Freeing themselves from mental conversation, they frequently direct their attention to the mental image. Until physical and mental pliancy arise, there is an attention that approximates serenity, but when they do arise, it is serenity. All these citations also establish the meaning of the sutra, unraveling the intended meaning. Well then, which of the 9 levels incorporates the concentration in which pliancy is not arising? As we have read before during the middle person's practice, the physical and mental dysfunctions are the unfitness of your body and mind for being unemployed to cultivate virtue at will. Page number 82, sorry. Their remedies, physical and mental pliancy until great serviceability in terms of applying your body and mind to wholesome actions, for you are free of dysfunction of both the body and mind. His Holiness refers that this is quite similar to what we have read before in the Midland Lamrim about the needs to be free of dysfunctions of both the body and mind. Moreover, physical dysfunction, which is included in the category of afflictions, interferes with your delight in eliminating afflictions. When you try to eliminate your afflictions, your body becomes unserviceable with a sense of heaviness and so on. Once you are free of this, your body becomes buoyant and light. This is a serviceable body. Likewise, mental dysfunction, which is included in the category of afflictions, interferes with your body, interferes with your delight in eliminating afflictions. When you try to eliminate your afflictions, you cannot experience pleasure in focusing on a virtuous object. Once you are free of this, your mind focuses on the object of meditation without resistance. This is a serviceable mind. Thus, the Master Siddharamati states, the serviceability of the body is that from which lightness and buoyancy arises in your physical actions. The serviceability of the mind is the cause of cheerfulness and lightness of the mind and engaging in perfect attention. If you are endowed with this transform equality that arises from your mind, you focus on the object of meditation without resistance. Therefore, it is called the serviceability of the mind. In short, due to the serviceability of the mind and body, even when you want to strive to eliminate afflictions, you do so arduously and with distaste that someone unable to engage in work. When pliancy is achieved, this tendency stops and your body and mind become very easy to employ. Such complete physical and mental serviceability arises to a slight degree from the time that you start to cultivate concentration. This gradually increases until it finally turns into pliancy and one-pointed meditative serenity. At first, this is difficult to recognize due to its subtlety, but later on it becomes easy to recognize. Asanga Sarvaka level states, at the very beginning, when you begin the correct training, the occurrence of mental and physical pliancy and mental and physical serviceability is subtle and difficult to discern. And as that one-pointed mind and mental and physical pliancy increase in the manner of unchained reaction, they lead to a one-pointed mind and mental and physical pliancy that are obvious and easy to discern. The portent of the occurrence of easily discernible, perfected pliancy is this. Persons who are striving to cultivate concentration experience a sense of heaviness and numbness of the brain, but it is not an unpleasant heaviness. As soon as this occurs, they are freed of mental dysfunction that obstructs their delight in eliminating afflictions, and mental pliancy, which is a remedy for this dysfunction, arises for the first time. The Sarvaka level states, the portent of the proximate occurrence of obvious, easily discernible one-pointedness of mind and mental and physical pliancy is a sensation of brain becoming heavy, but this is not a harmful characteristic. As soon as this happens, you eliminate the mental dysfunction that belongs to the category of afflictions and that obstructs your delight in eliminating afflictions, and the mental serviceability and mental pliancy, which are remedy for this dysfunction, arises. Then, due to the power of the arising of the pliancy that makes your mind serviceable and energy that a cause of physical pliancy occurs through your body. Where the last line, the Sarvaka level states, due to its occurrence, energy wind included among the great elements that is conducive to the arising of physical pliancy courses through the body. When it flows, you are freed of physical dysfunction that belongs to the category of afflictions and that obstructs your delight in eliminating afflictions, and physical pliancy, the remedy for these afflictions, saturates the entire body so that it seems if you are filled with this energy. So here the energy wind, due to its occurrence energy wind, so it refers, we have to see how the subtlety of this energy wind is. So it may be a rough one. This is conducive to the arising of physical pliancy courses through the body. When it flows, you are freed of physical dysfunction that belongs to the category of afflictions and that obstructs your delight in eliminating sufferance and physical pliancy. The remedy for this affliction saturates the entire body so that it seems that they are filled with this energy. Now, physical pliancy is a very pleasant sensation within the body or a mental factor. As the Master Siddharamati states, citing Sutra, if a distinctive physical sensation is qualified by delight, recognize this to be physical pliancy. If your mind is delighted, your body becomes pliant. Thus, when the physical pliancy initially occurs due to the power of energy that arises, a great sense of well-being in your body, and on this basis, there also arises in your mind a most exceptional experience of that pleasure. Thereafter, the force of this initial occurrence of pliancy gradually subsides, but this is not a case of pliancy become exhausted. Rather, this pliancy is coarse and excessively aggregates your mind. So, with its disappearance, there occurs a pliancy tenuous like a shadow that is compatible with steady concentration. Once the rapturous delight of your mind has disappeared, your mind stabilizes firmly upon the object of meditation, and you achieve meditative serenity, which is free of turbulence caused by great delight. The Sarvaga level states, when this first arises, you experience delight, a great sense of bliss, attention to unsurfaced delight, and a manifest delight. Following this, the force of pliancy that first arises slowly becomes very refined, and your body becomes endowed with chateau-like pliancy. You eliminate delight, your mind becomes stabilized with meditative serenity, and you focus on the object of meditation with exceptional serenity. Once such things happens, you are said to have attention, you achieve serenity, and you are included among the ranks of those who have achieved attention. For by achieving serenity, which is included in the access to first stabilization, you achieve the smallest type of attention on the level of meditative equipoise. This accords with the statement in the Sarvaka levels. Thereafter, the novice yogi is endowed with attention and is included in the ranks of those who are called attentive. Why? Because this person has achieved a small type of attention on the level of meditative equipoise that first experienced the form Ram. Therefore, this person is called attentive. The level of meditative equipoise is a synonym for the level of two higher realms. The marks associated with attention and the elimination of forms. These are the marks and signs to be known by yourself, another as a criteria for having achieved attention. You who have achieved such attention have this mark. The achievement in small measure of these four, your mind belongs to the level of form, physical pliancy, mental pliancy, and one-pointedness of mind. The ability to purify afflictions either by means of path bearing the aspects of calmness and coarseness, or the path bearing the aspects of truth. Once your mind is established inwardly, meditative equipoise and physical and mental planes arise ever so swiftly. For the most part, the five obstructions, such as sensual desire, do not occur. When you rise from meditative equipoise, you still possess physical and mental planes to some extent. Thus, the Sarvaga level says, these are the marks of a novice who is endowed with attention. You achieve the small degree of a mind and experience the form Ram, physical planes, mental planes, and the small degree of one-pointedness of mind. You have the opportunity and ability to practice with objects of meditation that purify afflictions. Your mind stream becomes smooth and you are enveloped by a meditative serenity. And when your mind is perfectly drawn inward, settled and focused, mental and physical planes occur ever so swiftly. You are not afflicted by physical dysfunction, and for the most part, the obstructions do not operate. Even when you rise from meditation and move about, you still have a certain degree of physical and mental planes. Recognize such experience to be purified characteristics and signs of possessing attention. After you have achieved attention bearing such characters, it is very easy for the path of serenity to be thoroughly purified. As follows: after you have achieved equipoise and meditative serenity in which your mind is one-pointed, you are swiftly able to induce physical and mental planes so the planes increases. Commensurate with the increase of planes, one-pointed serenity increases so that they mutually enhance each other. Sarvaka levels, just as your physical and mental planes increase, so does your mental one-pointedness upon the object of meditation increase. And just as your mental one-pointedness increase, so does your physical and mental planes increase. These two phenomena, mental one-pointedness and pliancy, are based upon each other and are dependent upon each other. In summary, when your mind is serviceable, energy and mind focus is one, so the energy becomes serviceable at that time. An extraordinary physical planes occurs, and when this happens, exceptional concentration arises in your mind. This in turn brings forth an exceptional serviceable lethargy. Therefore, the process of physical and mental planes is explained above. The elimination of forms as follows. Accordingly, it is said of the non-discursive nine mental state that even without continual effort at mindfulness and vigilance, your mind becomes concentrated. Moreover, you are endowed with an intensity of clarity that prevents even subtle laxity. As in the earlier presentation of the physical planes, there is concentration that yields outstanding well-being in your body and mind due to power of serviceable energy. As explained in the above section on the marks associated with attention, for the most part there is no moment of the secondary afflictions of sensual desire and so on. And even when you rise from meditative equipoise, you have the equality of not being parted from blind. In terms of five paths, where does this occur? In the past as well as present, there have been a great number of people who assert that when such concentration arises, it is generally to be placed on Mahayana path. Specifically, they assert this as a complete contemplation in which the characters of the completion stages of highest Yoga Tantra are perfected. They draw this conclusion about noting the occurrence of a great experience of bliss in the body and mind, based on the feeling as if one's entire body will fill with ecstasy due to the energy corresponding to the diverse influences, as were the attributes of non-discursive awareness and great clarity. On page number 87. Second paragraph. Furthermore, if this concentration is imbued with the view that correctly knows selflessness and with the attitude of determination to be freed, which probably ascertains the faults of the whole of cyclic existence, is repelled by the cycle of existence, and will diligently strive for liberation, it turns into path to liberation. If it is imbued with the precious spirit of enlightenment, it turns into the Mayanabha. For example, if the generosity of giving a single morsel of food to an animal and observing even one type of ethical discipline imbued with this attitude, they turn into collection of merit on the path to liberation and omniscience respectively. Nevertheless, in the case of this question, you do not investigate whether it becomes a path of liberation or omniscience in terms of it being imbued to other paths. Rather, you investigate which path it becomes by very nature of concentration itself. Although there are inconsistencies between the Madhyamaka and Chitramatun, we have to establish the object of the view of insight. In general, there are no consistencies in their identification of serenity and insight, for in way depth of knowledge of their mainstreams. Therefore, Noble Asanga states in the Bodhisattva levels, compendium of determination, compendium of knowledge, and the Sarvaka levels, that within the context of the individual practices of serenity and insight, when serenity is accomplished, it is accomplished through stages of 9 mental states. Moreover, since it is elaborate set forth in Sarvaka levels, these 9 concentrations are not asserted as a means for accomplishing insight. This treatise insight explains separately from the 9 mental states, and the means of accomplishing it also explains separately in Asanga's Sarvaka levels. Similarly, in Madhyamika stage of meditation texts, and Ratna Karasanti's instruction for perfection wisdom also separately discusses the path of serenity consisting of 9 mental states and the path of insight. There are also no differences between the statements on the teaching of Mahayana and commentaries by Asanga. So all the great hellblazers of one Mahayana in this regard. Although bliss and clarity are present in concentration, which are explained in Sarvaka levels, it is mere serenity when there is no profound non-discursive awareness. But if non-discursive awareness is present, it becomes concentration and emptiness. By concentration and emptiness, are we referring to investigating the meaning of profound in the phrase profound non-discursive awareness by using discerning wisdom to establish this definitely in theory and then focusing on this without discursiveness? Or are you referring simply to settle in non-discursive awareness and non-analyzing anything? In the first case, I also assert such a practice to be concentration on emptiness. If you assert likewise, there is a distinction between those who have and those who do not have an understanding of the way of where things are. These individuals who have the view and sustain a non-discursive awareness upon settling in this view are practicing the profound concentration on emptiness. The meditation of those who lack an understanding of this view and meditated by not thinking about anything is profound meditation on emptiness. It is valid to claim this distinction, to not neglect all types of meditation in which you do not think about anything on meditative stabilization or objectless, or on the signless, or on emptiness. Regardless of whether or not you have the view that comprehends emptiness, all meditation in which your mind is focused on not thinking about anything and not analyzing anything is concentration on emptiness. In that case, you will be forced to assert that even the concentration along the way to meditative serenity mentioned previously in passage from Asanga Sarvaka levels are concentrations on emptiness. For in those two, when settled in concentration, apart from few occasions of monitoring and so on, when the strength of mindfulness and vigilance has decreased, you sustain the meditation without the slightest discursive thought of this or this is this or this is not this. Therefore, in Sutra Unraveling the Intended Meaning says the concentration for achieving serenity attend to an image that is without discursive thought. Page number 89. This is stated in a passage concerning the practice of meditating serenity alone. In passages concerning the practice of serenity, the authoritative treatises speak only of meditation that is focused without analytical activity. So, to acknowledge people at the condition of all meditation without discursive thought at all constitute the practice of meditation on emptiness is lovable. In particular, this citation from Asanga's Sarvaka level also perfectly refutes the assertion that all reference to meditation with no mindfulness or attention is meditation on emptiness. Furthermore, Kamaleshwara's first stages of meditation says, the nature of serenity is nothing more than a one-pointed mind. This is the general characteristic of one meditative serenity. Ratnakrasanti's instruction for the perfection of wisdom also states, focusing on the mind which is perceiving various things, reject mental conversion and cultivate serenity. Mental conversion is the discursive thought. This is this. Moreover, after earlier citing numerous sutras and treatises by great trailblazers, including the discussion on Cloud of Jewel Sutra concerning serenity as mental one-pointedness, I have already explained numerous times that serenity handles no discursive thought whatsoever. Therefore, there is non-discursive awareness that meditates on emptiness as well as non-discursive awareness that lacks even the slightest cognition of emptiness. So do not regard every occurrence of bliss, clarity, and non-discursive awareness as meditation on emptiness. These comments disclose only a portion of this subject, so strive diligently and understand the ways of accomplishing serenity and insight as elucidated by Maitreya, Asanga, and so on. If you fail to do so, you will mistake certain concentrations that are focused non-discursively but without even reaching serenity for the insight which cuts the root of cyclic existence, and when you have arrogantly held this to be an awareness without a truly existing object, as time goes by you will have certainty deceiving yourself and others. The treatise of authoritative scholars and assert that when you newly practice in serenity, you exclusively focus your attention non-discursively in stabilizing meditation. Take a careful look at Kamaleshwara's 3 stages of meditation, you will understand. Back to middle end of Lamrim. By page number 225, the stages of conscience that arises in dependence on it. The actual stages of conscience that arises, placing the mind on such and such consists in collecting the mind from all external objects and directing it to an object within. In ornament for mind, Sutta it says, having directed the mind toward the object, continuous placement. The directed mind is continuously placed on object or a period of time without it being distracted to anything else. Then patchy placement, realizing distraction quickly, you should patch it up again. Close placement is explained as follows in instructions on the perfection of wisdom. The mind, while extensive by nature, is collected again and again, thus refined, so that placement gets better and better. This accords with the statement, intelligent people should more and more collect their minds internally. Having reflected on the positive qualities of meditative stabilization, you rejoice in it. Then, since you see the positive qualities, the mind is trim in stabilization. Pacification, you view distraction as a fault and pacify dislike for meditative stabilization. Seeing distraction as a fault, pacify dislike for all. Complete pacification, completely pacifying occurrence of attachment, unhappiness, lethargy, sleepiness, and so forth. Making single-pointed. Then by means of restraint and effort along with actual application, you get it to come about naturally. Even placement in the stages of meditation that is said to be equanimity when the mind has become even. In the instruction for the perfection of wisdom, it is said to be spontaneous, natural engagement, and the attainment of control due to the habit of unifying the mind. In accordance with that, it also says in ornament for Mahayana Sutras, since it's habitual, there is no application. There is non-application. The names of these 9 minds are as quoted in stages of meditation and elsewhere. The path of Kamya is explained in scriptures such as the perfection of wisdom. The method for accomplishing them by means of 6 powers. 6 powers are those of hearing, thinking, mindfulness, introspection, joyous effort, and thorough acquaintance. These are 6 points. Through the power of hearing, the mind of placement is accomplished, for it merely consists in first tying the mind to the object, following just instructions you have heard from someone on how to place the mind on the object. It is not something that you have become familiar with through your own repeated reflections. Through the power of thinking, the mind of continuous placement is accomplished, for you keep thinking about the continuation of that first tied object and sustain it. From that, you will initially achieve incapacity for a somewhat connected continuity. Through the power of mindfulness, the 2 minds of patchy placement and close placement are accomplished, for when the mind gets distracted from the object, you are mindful of earlier object and collect the mind inward, generating the power of mindfulness from the start. You do not let your mind get distracted from the object. Through the power of introspection, the two minds of taming and pacification are accomplished. For through recognizing with introspection the disadvantages of skirting toward discursive thought and toward the signs of secondary afflictions, and through viewing them as false, you do not allow your mind to scatter toward those two. Through the power of joyous effort, you accomplish the 2 months of complete pacification and making single-pointed, for you abandon even subtle occurrence of discursive thought and secondary afflictions with endeavor, thereby not responding to them. Since you do so, laxity, excitement, and so forth cannot obstruct your meditative stabilization, and meditative stabilization that arises continuously is accomplished. The power of thorough acquaintance. These points echo the intended meaning of Sarvaka level, so you should not rely on any other explanations. How during the 9th mental abiding you effortlessly enter meditative. Now when you have attained the 9th mind, it is like in the following analogy. If you are never used to reciting a text or something like that, then whenever the motivation to recite it first arises and you recite it, even though your mind is distracted by something else in the meantime, the recitation itself continues uninterruptedly without endeavor. Like when you have placed your mind in equipoise once through the mindfulness of having initially directed towards the object, then even though mindfulness and introspection are not applied continuously, you become capable of entering meditative stabilization continuously over a long period without being interrupted by scattering. When mindfulness and introspection are continuous, there is no need for the endeavor of application, and that is called without application or endeavor. For that to arise, first a long-lasting meditative stabilization that cannot be obstructed by unfavorable conditions such as laxity and excitement has to arise whenever mindfulness and introspection are each applied with endeavor. That is the 8th mind. That are the 9th one, and the same in that condition favorable and meditative stabilization such as laxity and excitement cannot disturb them. Yet since it is necessary here to apply mindfulness and introspection uninterrupted, it is said to be connected with application or endeavor. For that to arise, it is necessary to stop even subtle laxity, excitement, and so forth as soon as they arise without responding to them. Therefore, the 7th mind is necessary. For that to arise, there is a need for powerful introspection, watching that there is no scattering toward conceptual thought and secondary afflictions distracted by them having been understood to be a disadvantage. Therefore, you need 5th and 6th mind, because these two are accomplished with introspection that has become powerful. For something like that to arise, however, there is a need for both mindfulness that immediately remembers the object even if the mind has been distracted from it, and the mindfulness that does not allow any distraction from the object in the first place. Therefore, the 3rd and the 4th minds are necessary, because these two are accomplished by those two types of mindfulness. For this to arise, however, the first of all, the mind must be tied to object, and continuity of that bond must be undistracted. Therefore, the 1st and 2nd minds arise first. The summarized meaning of these points: how they involve 4 types of attention. Sarvaka levels explain that the 9 stages of conscience involve 4 types of attention. Explained in accordance with that, there is tight engagement at the time of 1st and 2nd minds, because the mind needs to be tightened with effort. Then during 5 months, laxity and excitement interrupts you, and you cannot sustain long meditation sessions. So at that time, there is interrupted engagement. Then as regards the 8th mind, laxity and excitement cannot cause interruption, so that you can sustain meditation sessions for long. Therefore, at that time, there is uninterrupted engagement. Then, for the 9th mind, there is no interruption, and it is not necessary to rely on constant endeavor. So you settle into attention of effortless engagement. Setting out the doubt about that, the response to that, you are on page number 229. The need to continuously to rely on joyous effort in accordance with that. In the Compendium of Perfection, it says, through uninterrupted yoga strive to accomplish concentration. If you rest again and again, you will not get fire, even fire through frictions. The method of yoga is like that. Do not give up till you gain the obstruction. The measure for the accomplishment of calm abiding through meditation has 3 points. Indication of dividing line between having accomplished it is not. Presenting the actual point, indicating whether or not calm abiding has been achieved from the point of view of whether or not appliance has not been completely achieved. When you can sustain the 9th mind free from subtle laxity and excitement throughout the long meditation session, as has been explained earlier, and when you attain meditative stabilization that operates spontaneously, independent of the endeavor to apply mindfulness and introspection continuously, as calm abiding is achieved or not. When meditative stabilization has been achieved, there is a twofold division. Pliancy having been achieved or not. If the pliancy has not been achieved, it is a similitude of calm abiding rather than actual calm abiding. In the sutra unraveling the intended meaning, it says, Bhagavan, when the Bodhisattvas direct this mental attention inwards, his mind observing the mind as long as physical and mental pliancy have not been achieved. What is that mental attention called? Maitreya. It is not calm abiding. It should be described as an inclination that corresponds with the calm abiding, as something associated with it. In Ornament for the Mayana Sutra, it also says, since it's familiar, there is no application in it. Then his body and mind attain extreme overwhelming pliancy afterwards. It is said to have mental attention. In this context, mental attention is calm abiding. In stages of meditation, it also clearly says, when the body and the mind of one who has thus familiarized himself with calm abiding become extremely pliable, and when his mind becomes fully controlled with regard to objects observed at will, at that time he should know that calm abiding has been accomplished. And from instructions on the perfection of wisdom, here the Bodhisattva dwelling alone in seclusion should mentally attend to his intended object. Having abandoned his mental conversation, he should attend many times to the mind itself as it appears. As long as physical and mental planes have not arisen, it is the mental attention that corresponds with calm abiding, whereas once they have arisen, it is calm abiding. Now, what level is meditative stabilization before the attainment of planes included in? Second, indicating in which calm abiding is accomplished, every plane has been fully achieved. We are on page number 231. Well then, what is the manner in which pliancy is achieved? Once it has been achieved, what is the method for proceeding to calm abiding? This is what the compendium of knowledge says with respect to pliancy. What is pliancy? It is the serviceability of the mind and mind due to cutting the continuity of taking on bad physical and mental states. Its function is to eliminate all obscurations. Their taking on bad physical and mental states consists in that the body and mind are unfit to be employed or for any virtuous activity at all. The antidote to that physical and mental pliancy is an extreme serviceability with respect to the body and mind being employed for various virtuous activities. It is due to freedom from taking on bad states, both physical and mental. Specifically, if you endeavor to give up mental afflictions and bad physical states you take on that are within the class of mental afflictions and obstruct the joy of abundant mental afflictions, you will get rid of such unserviceability as heaviness of the body, and then its tightness is serviceability of the body. Likewise, if you endeavor to abandon mental afflictions and taking on bad mental states that are within the class of mental afflictions and obstructs the joy of abandoning mental afflictions, you will pass beyond the unfitness, the mind for being directed toward the object and engage in it with delight. Then the mind engaging in its object unobstructedly is a serviceable mind. In accordance with that, our Acharya Staramati says in this regard, serviceability of the mind or body is that from which whenever lightness arises for the activities of the body itself. Serviceability of the mind is another phenomenon arising from mind, that is cause of the mind becoming fresh and heavy after entering into pure mental attention. When you are endowed with it, you engage in objects unobstructively, which is why it is called serviceability of the mind. In brief, although you want to try hard and abandon the mental afflictions, the serviceability of your seemingly defended body and mind makes this as much difficult to as if you were engaging in some unpleasant duty of yours. Once the unserviceability of the body and mind has been reversed, the body and the mind become extremely easy to use. In Saravaka levels, it says that such perfectly completed serviceability of the body and the mind arises in small portions right from the beginning when you obtain meditative stabilization. So it increases, eventually turning into pliant, single-pointed calm abiding. In fact, at first it is subtle and therefore hard to recognize, but later on it becomes easier to recognize. An early sign of such pliancy about to arise, complete with all its characteristics and easy to discern, is a feeling of heaviness at the top of the head, experienced by the person striving to cultivate meditative stabilization. It is not an uncomfortable heaviness. As soon as it arises, you are freed from taking on bad mental states that obstruct the joy of abandoning mental afflictions, and its antidote, pliancy, arises first. In Saravaka levels, it says, as an early sign that grows single pointedness of mind, which is easy to discern, as well as pliancy of mind and body will arise before long. The top of the head will seem heavy. In fact, this symptom is not harmful as soon as it arises. Any bad mental states taken on within the class of mental afflictions that obstruct the joy of abandonment are abandoned, and their antidote, serviceability of mind and mental pliancy, arise. Then, in dependence on the force of that pliancy of mental serviceability having arisen, the energies that cause physical pliancy to arise circulate within the body. When those energies circulate in your body parts and prevent them, you are freed from taking on bad physical states, and the antidote to taking on bad states, physical pliancy, arises. Moreover, after they have spread throughout the body, the latter seems as though filled with the power of serviceability energy. In Saravaka levels, it says, through its occurrence, the energies of the great element that are conducive to the arising of physical pliancy circulate within the body. As they circulate, one is freed from taking on any bad physical states with the class of the mental afflictions that obstruct the joy of abandonment. The antidote, physical pliancy, spreads throughout the body and later seems to fill with it. On the page number 233. The science of possessing attention, along with the clarification of doubts, the actual science of possessing attention, the science by which to recognize that you yourself or others that achieve attention are set forth in Saravaka levels. Through attaining that a set of four is achieved in small measures, a mind included in form realm, physical pliancy, mental pliancy, and single pointedness. Also, you are unable to purify mental afflictions by means of calm and course, parts or parts associated with aspects of future or Four Noble Truths. Physical and mental pliancy arise very quickly when the mind is equipoised inward for the most augur. For the most part, the five hindrances, desire for sensual pleasure, sleepiness, and so forth, do not augur, and when you arise from equipoise, you are still imbued with some physical and mental pliancy. Once attention with these signs is achieved, it is easy for the path of karma abiding to become pure. After meditative equipoise of the mind in single-pointed karma abiding, physical and mental pliancy can quickly be indulged, so the pliancy increases. Saravaka levels explained that the more pliancy increases, the more karma abiding also increases. So from here, there is something which is not evident in Lamrim Chemo.
In summary,
so it's page number 231. In brief, although you want to try hard and abandon the mental afflictions, the unserviceability of your seemingly deficient body and mind makes this as difficult to do this if you were engaging in some unpleasant duty of yours. Once the unserviceability of the body and mind has been reversed, the body and mind become extremely easy to use. In Saravaka levels, it says that such perfectly complete serviceability of the body and mind arises in small portions right from the beginning when you obtain meditative stabilization. So it increases, eventually turn into pliant, single-pointed calm abiding. In fact, at first it is subtle and therefore hard to recognize, but later on it becomes easy to recognize. Sorry, I'm here a little bit lost with the actual line here. Sorry, His Holiness says it will end here. So how much is left? Maybe we read it. So we are on page number 235. Clarification of doubts. This is 4 points. When was the kind of meditative stabilization explained before is above is achieved? Which of 5 parts is the context to place it in? If it is the meditative stabilization explained above that is cultivated after the view of selflessness has been unmistakably ascertained and the mind has been placed within that view, it can be placed in the context of the path of liberation of ordinary beings. However, if it is a meditation sustained otherwise, Sarvaka level says that even mundane parts of the view with coarse and subtle aspects that accomplish the actual level of first concentration are accomplished in dependence on this meditative stabilization. Therefore, non-Buddhist sages who free themselves from attachment by means of mundane paths up to that of nothingness, and those below also need to progress to higher paths and dependence on it. So it is a meditative stabilization common to both non-Buddhists and Buddhists. Otherwise, if it is conjoined with a detachment from cyclic existence due to the view that correctly realizes selflessness and the realization of the false existence, and if it is conjoined with a thought to definitely emerge that strives for liberation, it becomes a path of liberation. If it is conjoined with the mind of enlightenment, it even becomes a Mahayana path. Likewise, for example, if the generosity of giving a pinch of food to an animal and guarding of one kind of ethics is conjoined with those intentions, they become collections of the path of liberation and omniscience respectively.